Call the meeting to order. This is the July meeting, regular monthly meeting for the Delaware County. Told you I'd do that. Liberty Perry. I've done a lot of these, not very well. For the Liberty Perry Community School System Board of School Trustees, and known as the school board. Today is July 16th, 2025, and this is going to be our first telecast meeting. So,
yeah, recorded meeting. Yeah. So, guests in the room, you're welcome.
So I think we'll edit out a lot of stuff, mistakes and such. But we started the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led tonight by Bruce Levitt.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So we approved, there's a couple additions in red, personnel and field trip.
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion from Shane Wise, second from Carol Wolf. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Approval of minutes from the June 11, 2025 Liberty Perry board meeting. It looks like we also, we've not approved the minutes from the June 3rd, 2025 special session board meeting. So you guys just want to do them both at once?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Tricia.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion from Shane Wise, second from Carol Wolf. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Patron comments. This is the time that let everybody speak. If you've signed up, nobody signed up to speak, but if you changed your mind, got something on your mind, complain about. Okay, thank you. Claims and treasurer report approval.
So you have extended payroll claims there because it's actually a week later between meetings.
Oh, right, yeah.
Some expenses for the building projects that we'll be reimbursing from the bond fund, so.
Yeah, and book orders, some big book orders for the beginning of the year.
We're getting actual books, huh?
Yep, we got some, the elementary, I had quite a few orders from them.
Nice. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Shane White, second from Carol Wolf. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Number 6, personnel. Recommendations. Ruth Perlin for some elementary physical education teacher. Morgan Shadow for Liberty Perry technology director. Haley Morvillius for Selma middle school science teacher. Nicole Merle for Wapahani High School FACS teacher. Abby Hollingsworth for Liberty Perry School bus driver. Melissa Carpenter for Liberty Perry Schools bus driver. And Caitlin May, girls varsity assistant soccer coach. We also had B resignations. Bailey Crenshaw from Summit Elementary, Corey Scott from the girls varsity assistant basketball coach position, and Gina Giordano from Wapahani High School English teacher.
I will say welcome Nicole and Haley who are in the room. And Haley brought the whole crew, the family to support her. And Ben is here to support her as well. So I'm excited to have you both here. Thank you for coming.
Was Corey the guy that just started last year with us, with Coach Hudson?
Correct.
1 year, okay. Scott got somebody lined up, or we?
When Brad emailed me, he said that they thought they had some leads on some folks, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They're hoping to bring somebody at the August meeting.
Okay. Unexpected then, or?
Yeah, I don't think it was expected.
Okay.
Coach Scott was going to step down. I'm really not sure the circumstances behind that, to be honest with you.
Okay, just curious. We keep going through them, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the right person in that place.
Have a motion.
Second.
Motion from Karen Wolf, second by Shane Weiss. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Overnight or out-of-state field trips, we have one. Kevin Van Note is asking for the Wapahani and Selma Middle School summer band trip to Kings Island on July 28th, 2025. They do this every year, Kurt.
Mm-hmm.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion from Shane Weiss, second by Karen Wolf. All with discussion. All in favor signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries, the motion carries 3-0.
And I know we have a lot of guests here, and just so everybody's aware, you are welcome to leave. We thank you for coming. Ben, Nicole, I will get a picture with you with Mr. Loomis. He's with his kid at orientation, or he would have been here. But Ben, I don't know if you would mind getting a picture of the family out in front of the Liberty Perry sign before Haley takes off. But we're not going to hold anybody hostage. We do appreciate you taking the time to come and congratulate you and look forward to working with you. So, but if you want to stay for the presentation, by all means, you're welcome to. So, sorry, I should cut this piece.
Yeah.
If I were you, I wouldn't stay.
I knew you did that with.
We have updates. We have a presentation by Garmin Miller. They've done a facility study for us.
All right, we're going to turn it over to the GM team here. Welcome back to Liberty Perry. They've got the presentation up for the board to see. Those in the audience are welcome to follow along, and we'll get this uploaded too so folks can view it as well. So, floor is yours. Board, I told them they go through the presentation, stop them, any questions that you have along the way.
Okay, well, thank you. Am I okay? Not anybody here, I'll do my best. So my name is Matt Hidner, I'm with Garmin Miller, project architect and principal. We've got Ryan Heitkamp, he's an architect as well that helped with the assessment, and then Andrew Muelsman, mechanical engineer and executive director with the firm as well. So on behalf of Garmin Miller, we really appreciate this opportunity to come in and provide this facility assessment for you. What we did, so we got under contract in March, and we jumped right into the actual facilities assessments. We looked at Selma Elementary, and I can flip to that real quick here. Hopefully this works. Didn't go too far out.
If you need me to, I can use the mouse here.
Yeah, if you want to, right. Oh, what's going on there? Oh, there it is. So, we went through Selma Elementary. That's about a 70,000 square foot plus or minus school. Selma Middle School, approximately 70,000 square feet as well. And then Wapahani High, a little over 100,000 square feet. We brought a team of 11 licensed architects, engineers, landscape architects, interior designers, technology designers, just kind of scoured through the buildings in a full day and really
we did an in-depth review. We had a great time learning about the buildings with David Wright, provided us a lot of great information and feedback. So what we did is we then took that study that we did and put it into the report that you have in front of you. That's the hard copy. We provide an electronic copy as well. So really what we're trying to do tonight is just provide a little bit more of a high level. The goal is probably a 30-minute or so presentation. We can go into any depth that you guys want to. If you have any questions from what you've seen so far, we're happy to do that. But we're going to try to focus on the key takeaways of each building and then talk about next steps as well. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Ryan, I think you might have it. Yeah, there you go. So how we looked at these assessments, we looked at 23 points when evaluating each of the buildings. You can see here, this is the breakdown of those 23 items that we went through. So different team members were focused on different aspects of the building. And, you know, as we kind of get to more of those details throughout each of the buildings, you'll recognize Ryan and I are focused more on the architectural and site items as well as structural. And Andrew's going to be focused on more of the engineering-led areas. So from that standpoint, we can kind of skip to the next. So how we looked at the buildings, we did a near-term cost assessment. So we evaluated the building like in the next 1 to 5 years, what we would recommend to help prioritize those items. And then the long-term cost assessment was anywhere between 5 and 10 years. In discussions with Mr. Black, we just talked like, you know, anything above 10 years is really almost too far to project out. And so I just wanted to, you know, kind of break down how we looked at that, and you'll see that in the assessment as well. And then we use historical assessment factors between the states of Indiana and Ohio as we look at all these. So we're getting a lot of feedback from construction managers as well as, you know, contracting authorities. So with that, we can jump to the next one. The ratings, which you'll see under each category or under each section, as we call it, we have these 3 ratings: needs replacement, needs repair, and satisfactory. So the needs replacement, you know, we're looking at, you know, we've got a full replacement of that system or that, you know, item within, and then we break it down by near and long term as well. The needs repair, just, you know, it's not a full system, but there's components of it that need to be replaced and repaired. So that's what we're focused on there. And then satisfactory is meaning we believe in the next 1 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years, it's going to be in good shape. So a lot of the structural elements, I'll just speak quickly on that from all the buildings, was really pretty favorable across the board. So your bones are good in the overall buildings. The next item here I wanted to break down. So you'll see under section H, under each summary, that there is a construction/contingency factor associated. Now that factor is, as you kind of see here on the screen, we take the construction contingency that in this case for Selman Elementary is $891,000 or as a long term and $249,000 as a near term. How we got to that number is you take all of sections A through W, we then apply a 7% contingency factor, you know, for the unknowns that we may run into on the project. We then add that to the non-construction soft cost total. So that includes all that information I've asterisked right there where, you know, we're going to have land surveys, soil borings, environmental reports, code reviews, code fees, construction testing, design compensation, possibly a construction manager compensation. So we want to include all that. You see the line items there, that 636,000 and 177,000 number. That is that factor right there. And then how we get back to the 891 and the 249 is we're basically taking these 2 line items, 255 plus 636 equals the 891. So just wanted to point that out and explain that a little bit more, just so everybody has an understanding. Now, as you know, if there are things throughout, and there are some things in here that are recommendations, they're not necessarily like you have to do this. We take those out, those numbers start to go down potentially too. So if we can jump to the next slide here. So this is really just the introduction to the elementary school. We have a floor plan here that we've kind of broken out. I'll be honest, this was a little complicated to figure out where all the additions and renovations started and stopped in this building. It was a lot. We had, I think, 5 boxes, huge boxes of drawings and information that Aaron and David provided us, and we went through, got them all electronically scanned, and went through them. And so this is to the best of our knowledge, and going through those drawings, I think this is pretty close to being accurate. But anyway, you can see the original building there, 1955, that red color. The 1961 is the green, and then the 1994 additions were adding significant different areas around the building. And then you see the 2016, which that was drawn in 2016. I'm sure it probably opened up in 2017. And then at the end there, or at the front of the building, 2021 is the latest addition that was done. And that probably opened up in 22.
What year did they close the elementary out by the reservoir?
It's been 18 years ago, so.
It'd be about 2007 or 8.
Okay.
So that kind of helps. And then this is the overall site, right? You just want to kind of give a high level update on that?
Yeah,
Just how it's laid out.
you've got a majority of the parking on the south side of the building, and then you've got 3 playgrounds throughout the site as well, with the elementary school sitting in the middle of the site, roughly. So.
Entry off the west side there, so you're very familiar with your buildings. But if we need to reference either the floor plan or the site plan at any point in time, we can come back and flip back to that. So the next slide, you can flip to that, Ryan. This is the overall assessment summary. So as you start to look in your book, and I know it's hard to read on the screen here, but that's the first page that you'll see. And so what we provide is just some general technical data on the top end, the county, the township, the acreage, and then we also get into the building history as best we can. And then we provide really the summary level of all those different assessment items that we reviewed. And you can see the rating on each of those categories, as well as the long-term cost assessment and the near-term cost assessment. So as you go through, and now we'll start to break down the different sections, you can then reference this main summary page. But the overall of what we're looking at here is again, I think there's definitely some satisfactory items here. I think your buildings are well maintained. I commend your director of operations and maintenance team. I think they've done a terrific job of keeping up on these buildings overall. But you see here, we do have some long-term cost assessment items and some near-term items that add up to about $4.5 million on the long term and about $1.27 million on the near term. So what we're wanting to do really with the next step is just kind of hit some highlight items. If Ryan, you can go to the next slide. These are the items that we pulled out, kind of looking at those $100,000+ items. There are costs in a few of the other categories, but we just kind of wanted to, kind of pick a point and say, okay, let's talk about anything that is really greater than 100,000. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andrew, and he'll take us through some of the engineering-led items.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. The first thing here is HVAC heating systems and electrical systems. So I think what Matt said is important. We're kind of basing a lot of this on a typical life expectancy. You guys know you probably own a car. Exact replacement time versus maintenance cost, it's a variable thing, so we use typical type data. So what we're trying to do is use that life expectancy of when those maintenance costs are going to really start to increase on you, and it might be worth replacing systems. So that's kind of the mentality we use here. So for the heating system, the majority of the cost is kind of in some air handlers that need replaced. They were installed in 1994 when they did the renovation and some of those additions. So they're about 31 years old, and 30 to 35 years is typically where we see air handlers getting replaced. And then also unit ventilators in the classrooms were installed at that same time, and they'll need a replacement too. Electrical systems are good on this building. You can see some updated stuff there, but the majority of that was installed in 1994. And it'll be good to go and has a lot of life in it. Next one then, kind of air conditioning and ventilation. Really, your central plants, your chiller and your boiler, those have been upgraded within recent years. I can't remember which. Chiller's about 8 years old, and the boilers are even newer than that, only a couple years old. So those are good, the things that are generating the chilled water and hot water. But some of the pumps getting out to the building are still fairly old, so there's some recommendations to replace those. And then on the fire alarm side, it should be okay. The tricky thing about fire alarm, and this will be consistent across all the buildings, is we're hearing Indiana's going to adopt it. We heard that last year as well, but the code changes, changing educational buildings to a voice notification system. So right now, fire alarms have a horn and a strobe in them, and when the fire alarm goes off, you can see a flashing light as well as hear an audible sound. Well, what the code is, if they've already gone to it in Ohio, and supposedly they're going to adopt it soon here in Indiana, it's kind of an audible message. So it'll say the word fire, but it can also be programmed for other events and things, as you can imagine. But it soon will be code. So in the long-term recommendation, you may be required to replace this system. So we include it in there so you're aware of it. If you wanted to do an addition, you may have to upgrade the whole thing. So it's a good cost to plan for, but it's one of those items, like Matt was saying, you don't necessarily have to do it now, but it's kind of included in that long-term burn awareness.
So the next couple items here, Ryan and I'll kind of break down. The first one is roofing. So from a near-term perspective, that's pretty minimal. There's some corrosion going on your access ladders, and we're recommending to kind of scrape and paint those. So pretty minimal on the near term, but long term, the PVC thermoplastic roof, will eventually need replaced. And by the time you get to about that 10-year mark, that would probably be about the time that roof would need replaced. I will also point out, again, a recommendation, best practice. Here's a great example of like a single roof drain. We typically see duplicates, one being an overflow. So, if that one potentially plugs up or something happens with that, you typically have a secondary one that's got a 2 or 3 inch riser on it that if in fact that happens, that overflow drain kicks into account and you don't have a bathtub basically happening on your roof. So we would recommend when you do the long-term, replacement that would be considered. And I think there's 4 of them or so on Selma Elementary. Most of them have the additional overflow drain, but there are, I think, 4 or 5 that don't.
And on the Western Management piece, I know I shared that their kind of plans on they would recommend life. Did that match up with kind of where you guys were at?
Yeah,
okay.
It did. Yeah, and overall, I think they did a good job of even kind of doing some proactive maintenance that I saw out there. I think they're keeping up on it. I think it's just an age expectancy or life expectancy that you'll get to at that 10-year mark.
Got it.
Yeah, as far as the general finishes, this kind of goes back to what Matt said earlier. A lot of what you'll see in the general finishes area is more recommendations, not requirements or necessarily a necessity as part of the assessment. So what you see there in that image to the right is just some water damage in the ceiling tiles. So that occurs throughout the building. There's also some wall finishes that are damaged in a few areas that's marked as well. But the big item under general finishes is replacing the casework. So the hardware on the casework isn't ADA compliant. Now, since it's an existing condition, you're grandfathered in. You're not required to replace that. But just something to keep in mind if you ever were to, renovate a classroom in the future, that's probably going to be a requirement that you have to take into account. So we've got it noted in there. I know it's a pretty large number, but not necessarily something that has to be done. Just something to keep in mind in case you do renovations or additions.
This next one, hazardous materials. We are by no means an expert in hazardous materials, asbestos, that sort of thing. However, we do look for markers within the building of that. And we did not observe any in this building, nor did David mention anything, kind of find any reports. He believes it's completely out of the building. But when going through some of the existing drawings, we did recognize that there's some asbestos called out in a few different locations of the building. So We have just, this isn't a significant cost necessarily. I think it's like, we're recommending a near-term cost of $15,000, but that's more observational, investigative. If you would want to clean your building completely out of that hazardous material, that's what we're essentially recommending to take the next step with. But ultimately, that's just a placeholder for that next step.
Next, we have the site. So a lot of the costs included in the site conditions section is just your typical maintenance for asphalt parking lots, which I'm sure you're already aware of. Your typical crack seal and restriping every 3 to 5 years. So that amount is included in there. And then mill and fill about every 10 years. So that's included in the long-term cost. So that's where a lot of your costs under the site conditions come in. But there are some items included in there, like you see in the picture to the left, to do some additional stormwater, trench or catch basins and curbing to help remove that area that you see there where the water's really ponding up. Also, in the picture to the right, a lot of that surface drains towards a playground that has a soft surface, which gets eroded as the stormwater runs to it. So that's another area where we recommend putting in a curb and then some additional storm drainage. So that's also included under the site conditions.
So those are kind of the high level items. I guess, are there any specific questions, and how are we doing on time? Are we okay to keep moving along through the middle school?
I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
So the heating, like you're saying, like I'm looking at the short term and it's, my eyes are telling me correctly, 686, 690. But we're using the boiler that we have in there because it's only 2 years old, I think.
Yes,
Yeah, that's with reusing the boiler.
correct.
Okay, and then in the air conditioning, it's all air handlers basically. So you're talking about coils and everything else, ductwork, everything's fine. It's just changing the air handlers, new coils.
Correct, on this school.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
just
then-
the air handlers out, which they're fairly expensive
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
replace, yeah.
Right, and then fire alarm. So I'm seeing 0 short term. So, and it's a big cost. It says need replaced, but that's only if we decide to go to the audible system. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so it's kind of one of those, it's a life safety thing, so are they
Yeah.
gonna enforce it here soon? Like I said, they've said it for 2 years now, that Indiana was
Right.
gonna adopt the code,
Yeah.
But yeah, if you wanted to do an addition or you wanted to do a major renovation, then it would kick in for sure.
Yeah.
But if not, if the building just stays as is, then you're probably fine
Yeah.
with it.
But technically, right now, it's working properly.
Yes.
It would be only
Yes.
if that law passed. Only if
Correct.
that. Okay.
Yeah, and what kind of our next recommended step here would be to develop a maintenance plan. So we would take all these items and start like looking at a plan to effectively, you guys help lead, what you want to necessarily do, but we will pair up elements that make sense from either a code perspective or like a construction perspective of like, okay, we should do these together. These can go on their own, but we want to highlight specific ones that make a lot of sense to go together. And then does that kick in that if it does become a code requirement,
Right.
then do we proceed to include that?
Okay.
So,
That was the only questions I had.
okay. So we'll continue on. So this is the middle school. It's about a 70,000 square foot building. We'll just quickly go through the plans here. This is the first floor as well as the second floor. So if we need to reference anything, we can. Overall, no additions to this building. So it made our investigative a little bit less complicated than Selma Elementary. But Ryan, you want to just do a quick dive on the site?
You've got the shared site there between the middle school and the high school. Majority of the parking around the west and south side, football field to the south. One thing to keep in mind, and it's included in the breakdown, is that we included all the site items for the middle school in the high school number. So you won't see anything as far as site conditioned under the middle school. That's why, since they share the site.
So then here's the overall summary. We're looking at a building that was built in 1979, 2 floors. You can see the square footage that I mentioned. Then we, go break down all the different components. We come up with a long-term assessment of about, 7.3 $7.3 million, and then the near term being a little over $2 million. So from the key takeaways perspective on this one, Ryan, if you can flip, heating, roofing, ventilation, air conditioning, electrical systems, plumbing, the structural, the walls and chimneys. I'll talk about those here in a minute. General finishes, fire alarm, handicap accessibility. Definitely some things more on this one that we would need to look at, as well as the exterior doors, life safety, and boost furnishings.
All right, so heating system, HVAC here again. Most of this number is again the air handling units. You can kind of see them on the left. They're about 47 years old, original to the construction of the building. So to Matt's point earlier, things are well kept and they're still running. But yeah, they are beyond where kind of those typical life expectancies are. The chillers, those were done within the last 10 years, so those should be good. The boilers and the pumps here are included in the number to be replaced.
The boiler's being replaced today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Check that one off.
Number's lower.
So that number was in there. That can be reduced out of there. Let's see. Oh, one note here, when you're talking about HVAC, I think it's important to understand, we talk about the life expectancy and the functionality, but also something to consider is the energy efficiency. So when you are upgrading pumps, chillers, air handlers, that air handler is probably constant volume now. So it's a 5 horsepower fan motor, using an example, comes on, uses 5 horsepower all day long until it goes off. Now we have variable air volume systems where, they're ramping those speeds up and down. Same thing with the pumps, and the boilers and the chillers and such. We have condensing boilers now. So not that we really, energy efficiency is kind of in this report. It's kind of a byproduct of replacing all these. You will see a reduction with a lot of the age of this equipment, and overall operating costs and utility costs throughout the district. So. Moving on then, electrical. So this electrical is a little older, so it's original to the building as well. It's getting up, like I said, 47 years. So that's starting to approach kind of that 50-year mark where long-term we would probably throw in. Again, it's not causing me a lot of problems now, but there's going to be a point when you can kind of see it up here in that picture where there's a piece missing. It's probably the manufacturer doesn't make that piece anymore. And it starts to get harder to replace things when things fail, and those costs go way up when you're trying to hunt for those. So, I think your high school's like 58 years old, so it can run the electrical. It'll keep running, but it's beyond the typical life expectancy. So long term, there's a large cost in there for that. Plumbing fixtures, that's just a general overhaul. They all work well, but I think there's an update needed in a lot of your group restrooms. So there's a significant number in there to kind of update all the plumbing fixtures. And the fire alarm on this building, kind of the same thing. You guys have updated the control panel in the front, so it's in good shape. But on this building, there's some of these older horns out there, and there's not a lot of strobes. So our electrical engineers were a little bit of a concern with coverage, proper coverage in this building. So with some of the devices, even though the panels were upgraded, so this may be maybe a little bit more of a priority as opposed to the elementary school. But then if you're going to change things, you might consider going to that voice system because that's the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next couple here, back to roofing, very similar to the elementary school. The overall condition of it, I know it kind of shows a little bit of like ponding areas here, which we'd like to address and take care of on the long term, but for the most part, the PVC membrane is in decent shape. I wouldn't say it's good or great shape. It's in decent shape here. We have a similar condition where from a near-term perspective, we'd probably recommend some, just prevention on the access ladders, that sort of thing, getting those scraped and repainted. But then this one has a few overflow drains as well that we'd probably recommend adding when the long-term replacement of the roof happens. The next item there is a picture of the south gym wall. You know, after talking to David, it sounds like there's quite a bit of moisture that still comes in and keeps having to repaint that wall. So we want to take a deeper dive in that. We got some near-term costs accounted for to correct that. And then I think long-term, there's some like cleaning and sealing of the brick facade that would probably be warranted, you know, over the next 10 years or so.
And then as far as general finishes, same condition as the elementary school, just updating the casework to be more ADA compliant. As you can see there, you've got a sink that doesn't have the leg room for somebody in a wheelchair to be able to use that sink. So just stuff like that throughout the school. So again, not a necessity or a requirement right now, but just something to keep in mind if you do renovate some of the spaces within the building. Another thing that's different with the middle school than the elementary school is with the second floor, you don't have as many ceiling tiles on the first floor that need to be replaced, but there are quite a few floors throughout the building that need some repair. So that is accounted for as well under general finishes. And then also handicap accessibility. This occurs quite a bit throughout the middle school. What you see there on the left is a door into a classroom, and the issue with that condition is there's not enough clearance on the latch side of that door for somebody in a wheelchair to be able to access that classroom. So typically what you'll have is on the push side of the door, you'll have 12 inches from a wall to the latch side of the door. On a pull side, you'll have 18 inches, and you don't have nearly enough there for that classroom. And like I said, that occurs throughout the building, first and second floor, not only in the classrooms, but also in locker rooms and other spaces as well. So again, that's not an item that would need to be replaced or repaired now, but just something to keep in mind if you do some renovations to the interior. Since it is an existing condition, it's suitable as it is for now.
The next picture is the exterior doors. So those are, I believe, original to the building. At least they appear that way. They're all single pane. They're not thermally broken. There's some rust occurring. You know, like I think, you know, it's one of those things you could make the justification either way, but our long-term recommendation would be to replace them, get more updated and more, quite frankly, just more technologically sound, like door access hardware, that sort of thing. And then also we would recommend replacement of the frame too. So I will point out, like, the doors are in the door category, and then the window components, like the upper portion of that window, the cost is actually accounted for in the window. So we noted that in the assessment, but those are typically split, but we wanted to just make mention of that the windows didn't technically go over that $100,000 threshold that we were kind of talking about at the beginning, but there is some cost included in that category for the replacement of that overall system as well.
Yeah, and then for the loose furnishings, a lot of that cost is just to update the classroom furniture. So like you see there, you've got the desk and chair attached. This is just our recommendation. That is a very old system of classroom furniture. So we just included a cost in there to upgrade the classroom furniture to a more modern style to suit the needs of how teachers are teaching classes now. And then also one thing I forgot to mention on the handicap accessibility, the public restrooms that are accessible to anybody attending an event in the gymnasium don't currently have an ADA accessible stall within them. So there is some cost in there to upgrade that and include a handicap stall within that number.
And just to build quickly on the loose furnishings, I mean, a lot of the modern classroom furniture has the capability of working in like small groups and settings versus kind of the traditional lecture style. So they nest together. Again, it doesn't have to be like Ryan said, but definitely a recommendation toward that evolving, curriculum basically. So any questions on the middle school? Okay, well, we can jump over to the high school then. So this building, once again, does not have any additions. So it was the original building, which definitely helped. I mean, there were some nuances between different aspects of the building or different parts, but overall, it was a lot more straightforward for us. You can jump to the next one, Ryan, there, the site, go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of already covered the site with the middle school. They share the same site, so you'll see a lot of the costs for the site items, or all the costs for the site items within the high school number, including any sidewalks associated with the middle school.
And then here's the summary. So 1967 is the original building, single floor. I mean, minus, I guess, a couple mezzanines for like the bleacher area in the high school gym there. But we're looking at a little over 100,000 square feet. We've got the breakdown of all the different recommendations, ratings, near-term, long-term cost. This one, definitely a little bit higher, some of that square footage, but then there's definitely some recommendations in here that I think are subject to your review and approval of those. But we're looking at about 13.8 and 8,300,000. So yeah, sorry about that. So we'll go in and hit the key takeaways on this building here. So as far as the key takeaways, we're looking in bold here: heating system, roofing. This is pretty similar to the one we just reviewed. Ventilation, air conditioning, electrical systems, plumbing and fixtures. We've got a little bit more on the structural walls and chimneys, general finishes, fire alarm, handicap accessibility, the site condition, life safety, and loose furnishings.
All right, so starting with the HVAC, a lot of the equipment is original to that 1967 construction. You see a gym area there on the left, and then what has been updated, boilers, chillers, and your classroom, there's a classroom vertical unit ventilator there, so they have replaced those, and that's kind of it. Everything else is pretty original in the building. So with the age of this one, you start to get into that infrastructure, the chilled water piping, kind of like you were talking about earlier. The piping and the hot water piping distributes around the building. Long term, I think you're probably, actually short term, I think we even have it in here, that being 58 years old, you're probably looking at, that's a significant cost that's included in that near term there. Yeah, I think that's about it. The next one, plumbing wise, you updated the water heaters here recently. I think similar to the middle school, you could use a fixture update in the majority of the group restrooms throughout that building. Electrically, although it looks okay there, same thing, it's about 58 years old, so you can see some of this is different colors and such. It's probably getting tough to get some of those pieces and parts as those fused switches might fail. So a full replacement is included in that long-term look of the electrical systems. Trying to think what else we got here. Oh, and then fire alarm on the right. Same thing as elementary school. Here, most of the devices were horns and strobes, and it wasn't the coverage concern that there was at the middle school. So this will still function, but knowing that voice notification is kind of that next wave there, we have it as a long-term cost.
Okay, so roofing, pretty similar to the other buildings. We talked a lot about the long-term replacement, the ponding areas. You can see there, water. I mean, there was no rain within the last couple of days, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there's some water.
It's a little bit
So yeah, we've got that picked up here. The near term on that though, there's no roof access ladders or anything, so you pretty much have to set up an extension ladder to get up there. You then have to take the extension ladder, pull it up on the roof, and then get to the different high and low areas of the building. It's a little tricky. We are able to do it, but yeah, definitely would recommend a near term of getting more of a permanent access point, at a minimum probably on at least those higher points, so you don't have to try to pull up a ladder and gain access that way. Let's see here. And then there was a few damaged downspouts that we noticed kind of throughout the building. So just kind of picking that up as well. And then as far as the walls and chimneys go, this building, we noticed, I think just with the different structural system that this had, so this had a concrete beam and structure system. So from that perspective, I think in relationship to where the brick facade was at, we noticed a lot more issues with the mortar, some rain getting behind the brick facade. So we've got some cost accounted for to take care of those items there. And there was also the masonry lintels were something that we would probably look at sooner than later as well. I just noticed we've got the near-term and long-term crossed here, so we want to get that cleaned up. But from a near-term perspective, painting and scraping those masonry lintels around like the window and door openings and kind of preventative maintenance on that piece.
As far as general finishes in the high school, a lot of the cost that you'll see associated with this section is due to the flooring, and just replacing the flooring in a lot of the classrooms and restrooms as well. Also included in that is the wall finishes within the restrooms, replacing that damaged areas. And then also we've got, I forgot to mention this for the other buildings, but also included under general finishes is just any cost associated with replacing ceiling tiles and grids associated with work due to other disciplines like mechanical, electrical, any work that they have that will be cutting through a ceiling where they need to remove a ceiling or a wall, section of wall. That's also included under general finishes. So you'll see that cost in there. And then same kind of issue here that you had at the middle school, handicap accessibility. You see a typical classroom door there. The latch side is right up tight against the wall. You do have room to the other side, so one option you would have is to flip that door. That would help, but would not get you the full ADA compliance because you would still be on the pool side, and there's not enough room there on the pool side. One thing to look into is we could see if the occupancy of those rooms would allow the door to swing in. If it's under 50 occupants, we could swing those doors in. Then you wouldn't have an issue, but that's just something to keep in mind that, again, if you renovate any of those classrooms, that may be something to look into or may be required by the authority having jurisdiction at the time. And then with this building as well, a lot of the restrooms don't have an ADA accessible stall. The two main ones by the auditorium, they do have a larger stall, but it doesn't quite meet the requirements for an ADA stall. It's not quite wide enough and doesn't have all the required grab bars. So not a big deal, but just something that we included just so you're aware of. If you do like replace the finishes in that restroom, that may be something that needs to be upgraded at that time too. So.
And then one more, I didn't cover it on the middle school, so this would kind of apply to both these schools. Under life safety is the sprinkler system. Most of the new school buildings getting built today, it would have a sprinkler system in it. So again, not something you're going to have to do, but we just like to show you what that cost is. Some schools, if you're going to do a major renovation, it'd probably be a good time to do it. But yeah, there's a cost in there to add a full sprinkler system to the building under the long term to just kind of give you that awareness.
The code, I'd say over time, as they continue to make updates, you can definitely see a progression of them trying to push for fire suppression. They limit the amount of square footage you can have without having a firewall every time almost to get to that point. So, it's definitely good practice to consider that long term. And then the other last piece here on life safety is regarding the stairs at the gymnasiums. Technically, those are out of compliance in terms of safety and code. They have to have vertical pickets that kids can't climb up. They have openings that are less than 4 inches, like a sphere of 4 inches, basically like the size of a small child's head. They don't want that happening. So that code has changed too. That would be subject to some upgrades eventually as well.
And then loose furnishings, same condition as the middle school. A lot of the classroom furniture is the desk, and seat combo. So yeah, we would just recommend, updating the classroom furniture throughout the building as well with this building. And then site conditions, Just like at the elementary school, you've got that typical 3 to 5 year cost for site crack, seal, and restriping of the parking lots. And then also there's an allowance in there for any concrete maintenance. It's a smaller number, but concrete, tends to heave and crack, and so there's an allowance in there in the long-term cost. And then also with this building, I believe there are some conditions on by the gymnasium where there's a downspout that runs under the sidewalk. There's a picture of it there, but it also occurs down the entire length of the gymnasium. And that would be one item from a ADA accessibility standpoint, as well as potentially a life safety, because that cover plate is starting to move and not sit flat with the concrete surface. So that would be a recommendation we would make, would be to tie those downspouts directly into the storm system rather than having them run in daylight out onto the parking lot surface. So that cost is also covered in the overall site.
You've mentioned a couple times the loose furnishings, I think it is. Is there an advantage to getting modern stuff other than like looks? Yeah, I think you mentioned pushing
Matt
off.
had mentioned how they house together for different learning environments. But really the advantage is, like I mentioned, how teachers are teaching classes nowadays. It's not, you're not sitting in straight rows, the entire class day. They do that potting of smaller group activities, and newer classroom furniture just suits itself better for that type of teaching.
That flexibility.
Exactly.
Right? You can do it. You do it in the rows when you need to take the test, but then you can do that project-based learning that a lot of.
And again, that's just a recommendation. A lot of the furniture that you already have in the classrooms is in fine condition, but it's just a recommendation, just from what we see as far as how the education,
Trends.
spectrum is going. Yeah.
And that's one that can easily be broken apart, right? You can buy 3 classrooms a year. We see a lot of districts kind of do that kind of thing, plan.
It is a very large number when you look at it as an overall building, but yeah, like Andrew said, if you break it up, it's not as bad.
Any other questions on Wapahani? And then really, as we just kind of conclude here, we've got the overall cost summary. You see the 3 buildings that come together. I know most people are not going to be able to read that. It's a lot of information, but it's really all 3 of the facility assessments coming together. You can scroll it down vertically and see the subtotal cost on long-term and near-term under each of the 3 buildings. Or you can go horizontally and the total cost by category under the long-term and near-term. Like if you want to look at the heating system, for example, okay, how much is that going to be? And again, this is just a starting point, and really that kind of leads us to our next slide here, where it's more about just, you can flip to that, Ryan. It's about next steps, and I would say, what we've provided you as a proposal is a recommendation to consider like a building maintenance plan, so we can start taking now this information and start putting a plan in place over the next, we'd recommend probably 5 years. So, okay, what do you want to accomplish? And we can work with, really David and anybody else within the district in terms of helping generate that list of priorities. We can kind of, budget things out accordingly, what things make the most sense to partner together or share together to get, economies of scale, or, certain things just naturally go together from a renovation standpoint. So we want to factor that in. And then really the optional thing here is really that educational visioning and learning environment evaluation. That's kind of more in line with what we talked about, like with modern curriculum delivery. We can take a deeper dive. We've got some specialists on our team that can really give you a lot of information about what that is, and then in turn, how does that impact your existing facilities, and whether or not you want to make accommodations or revisions or renovations to your existing environments. And then the last thing, one last slide here, is really just the feasibility studies. beyond what we talked about as existing buildings, the maintenance plan and the visioning is if you have any additional needs, whether that may be an athletic complex or anything like that, we can, all these can kind of be, these three items as far as the next steps can be running concurrently. We can look at any kind of feasibility study that you maybe want to, evaluate in terms of additional improvements or any additional additions, renovations, et cetera. So. And I think that's pretty much all that we've accomplished. Again, we really appreciate the time you've allowed us to be here to present this. I know maybe a little bit boring the information, but hopefully this provides you a document to kind of move forward and understand what kind of potential cost implications you may have from a facilities perspective. So.
Yeah, I think my takeaways as I've looked through this past week and a half when I first got it is, one, the classroom furniture it's a concern for me because it's kind of an antiquated approach to teaching, and our kids aren't probably responding to that environment the way that we'd like them to. But two, I think the good news is our bones and roofing, like those things, are in good shape, and I think there's a plan there. It's just some of those big ticket items being so antiquated, heating and cooling being one of them. Cindy can attest that the amount that we're spending to upkeep
Repairs it.
it's unbelievable. Like the number that we spent in 2024 and that we're going to spend again in 2025 replacing belts, fans, motors, and these systems, because one, some of the motors are impossible to find, so we're paying 3-4 times the amount that you would a newer motor. That stands out to me. That's something that we've got to get out in front of probably sooner rather than later. But I wouldn't look at this and be like, we want to do a building project, but you're telling me we need to spend $25 million. That's not the deal here. Like,
Absolutely.
This is just for us to plan as we want to do projects. How do we prioritize picking off some of these things, and how do we prioritize doing some of these things with the cash we have on hand too? I mean, that's one thing that I've said many times is you've protected your tax rate at a very high level. That's come at some cost, right? And you've protected your cash at a very high level, but it's come at some cost. I mean, you didn't spend it, and it's kind of showing up in some areas. So I'm not discouraged by no means by what I saw. I mean, the heating and cooling is a bigger chunk than I was anticipating, but I think overall I'm pretty satisfied with the information.
Yeah, but one of the things that we did when we switched to LED lighting is we looked at how far down the road, that we were going to start paying back some of that initial cost. So I'm assuming the same thing with the heating and cooling when we switched to the motors and the different things that you talked about at some point. Our energy that we're spending on parts and energy is going to maybe equal out, or maybe we start earning back. There's probably not a feasible way to come up with a.
Can you do consumption studies
Projection
on like older systems versus what a new, ballpark?
Yeah, we can do kind of ballpark level type stuff where rules of thumb, you can give you, ranges of years of paybacks and things. But, you bring a great point because electric rates, we're all going to see it, or we have seen it. They're going way up around the whole Midwest. Those numbers only get better because electric's really on its way up now, driven a lot by like data centers and stuff. Are using a ton of power, so it's kind of driving all our rates up. But
it's just easier for us to explain. When you look at 3 board members, we're community members, but everything that we decide, is the community's gonna have some kind of say so, and they're gonna be, we heard that it's 56 years old, but it's still working. Why are you fixing it? And when we've got some rock solid information, we're fixing it because, the parts and the energy that we're using, we know 10 years down the road, it's going to actually save us money.
Yep.
It's just a little easier for us three to make those decisions and be able to convey that to community members and make sure that we are making the right decision on top of that. So I don't know if that's a big deal to do that, or just even
No, I think specifically on heating and cooling, I think the more that we can justify
Right.
why would we make the investment, because I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of schools that just wait for it to fail, and then they go get a bond and they fix it, right?
Yeah.
But if we're kind of doing preemptive type work, I do think we have to tell that story to the community on the reason why we're spending $500,000 on something nobody's ever gonna see,
Right.
is because here's the money we're gonna get back over time.
And that's the tough thing, because we are wanting to renovate, and we've talked about adding,
Yep.
and then we spend this huge chunk and no one sees it. They
Yeah.
still feel warm in the winter and cool in the summer.
Yeah.
But they don't actually see it,
Sure.
so we just need to make sure that if we're gonna do it, that we pick which building, that needs it the worst, go that, and then we know that we are gonna save money in the long run.
And the other part is like, as we build off this maintenance plan, there's things that we can do, one in-house, but also within funds without impacting, like doing a project. Like there's some of these things we can start picking off
Absolutely.
year by year or every 6 months. Like, hey, here, next 6 months, we're gonna concentrate on this bathroom's fixtures. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna, isolate some of those things. And
The door's 98,000 at the middle school. I mean, we need to do that right away.
Yep.
I mean, that should have been done, like.
in
we need to-
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some of the things too, like the doors, LED lighting, the boilers at the middle school, all that stuff's done. Water softener at the high school, which we talked about before, it's been installed. So there's some of the stuff that is,
Mhm.
we're already working on.
And the ADA, I mean, that's super important.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got grandparents and you've got,
Especially bathrooms.
they come to
Yeah,
the
especially
restroom
those
in the middle
public
school, high school, and
bathrooms.
that's, we gotta do that immediately.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta get very professional, it's been eye-opening for sure.
So next step, you meet with, and again, Heath, myself, and David, and we really start to work with these guys. Like, what I'll do is I'll survey them and like prioritize your, what you feel like is the most needed. And then we work together kind of saying, here's how we can pick these things off over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll kind of break every year down. We'll kind of try to put them within each year, see what the totals are. If we got to adjust, we can.
Sure.
We'll even try to add a little inflationary number to years, 2, 3, 4, 5, just
Right.
knowing naturally things are going to go up. This does not factor necessarily that inflation. So these
Right.
numbers are like, if you were to do everything today,
Right.
that would factor that in, but
Yeah.
we don't have anything for a 5-year inflation.
Sure.
We're gonna use standard rule of thumbs, make recommendations, probably be about 3% every year, so by year 5, we're probably looking at 15%.
Mhm.
And if we can keep in mind as we're doing that, this last thing I'll say is that conversation around what's the payback, and again, you're never gonna get all that money back, but what's the energy efficiency payback on some of these larger items, I think that's gonna be pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to build on your comment was like, yeah, we can do some basic cycle cost analysis, but some of these sections reference each other or help and benefit one another. So like, for example, the roofing, if we were at that point where we're like, okay, now's a good time to do that roofing, maybe instead of the 2.5 inches of insulation that you got in the roof right now,
Mhm.
you go to 5 or 6. Now you're really improving your thermal envelopes
Right.
and your heat and cool transfer of going in and out of that roof, where
Mhm.
is your most inefficient loss in the building,
Mhm.
now suddenly helps promote the
Right.
idea of like, okay, now it does make sense to
Right. Yeah.
do this with that, for example. So
Great. Well, they've got their books, and I know, if I know this group, they're going to take some time to look through it, and there's going to be texts and phone calls coming to me in the next couple of weeks, so I do appreciate it. It's very, very well done.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. You're welcome to go to, we're not going to look at phone calls.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Good presentation.
Yeah.
Good presentation. Thank you. Good seeing you.
Yeah, if I can get leave, that'd be great. Yep,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can hang on to this one. Thank you.
Well, something else, Aaron. Numerous times a day on the radio, you hear, well, this classroom's freezing, or this classroom's burning up. You know, you've got 2 or 3 that's just not working. you
Some
know?
are super hot.
It's 100 in this classroom and 50 in the next one down the, down the hall.
I can't believe they lasted that long. I mean, 56
I know,
years.
isn't it crazy? I had no idea.
And then again, that's good to just maintain things, but I would, if I had to guess, probably poured in a lot of money into those things
Oh,
to keep them.
sure.
Yeah, they've had to.
One thing I was impressed that all of the pictures of what everything looks like.
Sure.
Everything looks like it's been taken care of.
It was very clean, wasn't
It
it?
looked very
Yes.
clean. It looked, a lot of that stuff looked
Yeah.
almost new.
Yeah.
Even though I know it wasn't.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I was, that's what I know, that's the first thing, like, this stuff's pretty nice.
Right.
Or nicer than what I expected to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Some
To be that
It's
way.
pretty old built.
Yeah, he's 7 years old, you think it's gonna be rusty, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Held together with,
Yeah, yeah.
some duct tape and baling wire. Okay, we are finished with that. We'll move on to new business. A is our 2026 budget workshop, a discussion of operational needs, including capital projects and our bus replacement plan for the 2026 corporation budget. We'll discuss the budgetary needs for 2026 and any other options you would like to consider, as well as prioritize the items for our capital projects for 2026.
And this will just build off what we just learned. One, on the bus replacement side, because again, Justin's so darn good at what he does and maintains our buses and the buses we picked up through the auction. I don't think in 2026 we'll be purchasing a bus. So that's some good news. So I'll be making some changes with Justin to that bus schedule. So you all know what's going on there. But just be thinking about this list and what you would like to see, whether it's Aaron, we'd like for you to start targeting 4 classrooms a year for furniture and those type of things.
Yeah.
So as I build out the budget for 26, that we get the funds going that direction. So that's
Okay, B, approve the special compensation proposal for non-certified specialist teachers.
And this stems from the last meeting's conversation. It's necessary. I think for a lot of responsibility we're asking those people to do. That's not necessarily equal to a teacher, but it's certainly a big job, and I think it deserves to see those
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
put in place. So
C, approve the memorandum of understanding between the Eaton Police Department and Liberty Perry Schools for SRO Brooks. And all that. D, did you want to go?
well, last time did we vote on each of these separately, or would you?
Just the ones that
Sometimes we
needed
do, sometimes we don't, yeah.
Okay.
'Cause that's 3 things, and then D's gonna be a review, right?
Yeah, we're going to
These are
discuss that
the-
part, right?
I think so.
Do you guys want to approve as we go, or do you just want to do them all at the end, just pulling out the ones?
There's a lot in
Actually,
there.
you need to- Yeah, I know.
It might be easier to go,
Yeah.
approve as we go.
Okay.
But so many, I mean, there's a ton of them. I did have a question about the MOU because it's talking about some of the review that we're gonna have to talk about. Like it's already in the MOU as far as taking the vehicle home, or is that talking about Eaton's vehicle? Like when you read that MOU, if we approve it how it stands, is that us approving for that vehicle to leave our property? Because it says that in the MOU when you actually read it. Or is that talking about their vehicle?
I thought they were both separated. I thought I separated them.
And I may not look at a
The
recent
vehicle
version.
specifically.
There's some language in that MOU that talks about taking the vehicle home. I didn't know if that was the Eaton vehicle or if that would be our vehicle. Yeah, it doesn't specify.
Well, I don't see the vehicle mentioned in the first MOU.
It may have been one that I read.
Maybe
Previous.
the motor vehicle user agreement
Could have been.
policy, which we're going to discuss.
Okay, could have been.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a lot of things to read in it and it's changed a few times. So
there's a lot. I know I hit you guys with a lot of different information, so.
I just want to make sure we don't vote it in and then turn around and discuss it.
Yep.
Right.
No, I think you're okay with it is in there, use of SRO vehicle, so my recommendation for this part would be to approve excluding point number 7, which
Okay.
is the use of SRO vehicle.
Yeah, I didn't know if it meant our actual vehicle or if it was, because I know
The
you
way
and
it
I
reads,
talked.
it does, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so are we going to eliminate? Are we gonna do D first before we do C?
Whatever's fine with me.
Okay. Okay. And did you guys want to approve as we go? Would that be easier?
Probably, because there's so many items.
Okay. B, approve the special compensation proposal for non-certified specialist teacher.
So we're doing A and B, because is A a
A is
discussion?
not, yeah,
No,
no,
A is a
that was just
discussion.
informational. Yep.
Right. Since we've already talked about C, we could do B and C together. Approve the MOU between Eaton Police Department and Liberty Prairie Schools for SRO Brooks.
We can do C, but we've got to exclude part of C. So how do we do that?
Excludes point 7.
0.7. Cindy's gonna take a note of that.
Okay.
0.7.
Yes.
Except 0.7.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Do I have a motion for those two?
Motion.
Motion from Shane Wise, second from Kara Wolf. All in favor, signify.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Okay. Okay. Then moving on to E, is that correct?
There you go, come back to D.
Yeah, we can just, let's do it right now.
Okay.
Review the SRO police car policy.
So if you go back to the last meeting, we had a discussion on the vehicles we can take home and you guys in the room. There's two schools of thought. I think I shared in the last meeting is one, I know Officer Brooks was hired under the intention that he was going to have a take-home vehicle. So I don't think it's fair to him to not allow that if there's not a good alternative. As I've thought through this and talked to a couple of board members throughout the last month, I just really need your feedback. I don't get the sense that there's an appetite for either one of the vehicles to be take-home vehicles, but to make up for that, there's an appetite to adjust their pay in order to make up for that loss in transportation. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin Thomas is not here. He had a great idea.
He shared that with me today too.
Yeah, he had a great idea of just taking both the vehicles back, and I know Eric Peterson had talked about when you work for Selma, that you take your stuff and you move it into the SRO vehicle, and then use the SRO vehicle separate than the Selma vehicle. That's something that you kind of mentioned with us during the last time we talked about it.
Always use the Explorer that the town has.
Right, but you move your stuff back and forth, like the belongings, yeah.
Right.
Because there was a question of like where Officer Brooks would store, his rifles, and we obviously have to have a secure area for that if we do that. The ideal, anyways, with me is to be able to hire whoever we're going to hire, whether they live, in Selma or not. And the two previous officers lived in Selma, so it wasn't really, it never came about. And now we've hired a person that doesn't live in Selma, so there's been a lot of pressure from the town board, some pressure from some of the patrons in the town. Everybody's got their own opinion. We really have never ruled on it, but it feels like no one wants those vehicles to leave the town, is what it feels like. That people want them to be here, whether they're a dummy vehicle or whatever they are, to deter crime. I don't know how much crime they're going to deter with nobody sitting in them, but originally I looked back today to make sure. I believe that it was February of last year, before you were here and you weren't on the board yet, that we voted those in. I looked through the meeting minutes and I looked through the emails, and we never really discussed that as a board. We never said yay or nay. It wasn't something that we ever discussed, and I don't know if it was because both of the officers lived here, or I really just don't know why we didn't discuss it.
I would guess that was it.
Yeah,
It just wasn't point.
I do know the general feel was when we were adding an officer in a vehicle is because something had happened at the elementary. Eric Peterson was, at the high school, and there was some mileage between the two. I believe that there's some kind of a stipend or something that pays half of the salary, correct, for adding
You're talking about the grant.
Right.
It's a school safety.
Yeah, so-
Yes.
So that's originally when we took another officer on, we all thought it was a great idea, because of the two incidents, one that happened at the high school, one at the elementary. And we were we love the fact that that vehicle is gonna be parked in front of the elementary and deter some of the things that were going on in that parking lot, was one of the main concerns we never talked about take home. We didn't talk about for you or for Zyger whether it was gonna happen or not. I don't know what our, last superintendent told you, but we didn't ever discuss it. We didn't really ever come to any decision on it. It just didn't come up. So it's unfortunate that someone was hired under that premonition that they were gonna take it home. And it's really not the general consensus of the board or the town, or the patrons of the community. So we're kind of in a predicament.
Right.
And
Because we need to figure out how to make that, right.
Absolutely.
And one thing, Kevin, I told him I was gonna share this with the group, is he's in agreement, but he also wants to make sure that they're taken care of. And I say they because using teacher as an example, just because you live somewhere else doesn't mean you get to make more money than somebody. So I would want to adjust Eric's too,
Absolutely.
because he's losing that
Yeah.
perk, even though it's a shorter drive. It's still that conversation needs to be
Yeah.
part of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's going to be an interesting balance, because I'll tell you what happened with the SR car this summer. It's set for 6 weeks and battery's dead and there's mice living in the motor.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's been stripped, all those things, the plates off of it. But it's sitting there, but we are going to have to get them moving some in the summer, or they're just going to dry rot. And
Mhm.
again, that's an expensive anchor.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it just to stay in Selma. I'd want our SRO to be able to use it for training, and I'd want them to use it to transport, kids or anything they needed to do.
School
It was
business.
School business, yeah, but,
And it can be outside of school. That's what outside of school day. I mean, like training, take training.
Absolutely.
Those type of things.
I mean, we do that with the corporation car, we let teachers drive it. I mean, that would be just the fact of taking the name of Selma off of it and putting another town's name on it when it was paid for out of property taxes is not gonna go over very well
Yeah.
with anyone in the community. It's gonna cause a huge issue.
Sure.
So it's,
So as far as use, we'd still be able to use those to go to training sessions and stuff.
I would think any school
Yeah.
business, like anything that's school. I mean, if whatever you're doing that is related to the school,
Any travel between buildings during the day, and and you gotta run, check on it, act like they need to be used.
Yeah.
And we want you to use them for sure. I think that's, of course, part of it, but it does sound like consensus is not to send them as take-home vehicles, which I also think the consensus is, and you tell me I'm wrong, that the charge to me is to figure out how to compensate and make that fair, to these guys, moving forward.
that's what it sounds
What
like.
are the biggest concerns as far as equipment goes?
As far as putting in the vehicles,
Yes.
storing rifles, paperwork, plate carrier, stuff that I don't want to have in school unless I have a secure place for it.
Right.
Mhm.
Just odds and ends stuff. You don't have an office, I gotta have a place to put stuff,
It's just like the teachers have an issue, or even all of us, we have an issue with FERPA. Well, same goes with the paperwork that we handle. If I'm doing a police report or something like that, there's certain things that you don't want to get out and get in the wrong hands.
Absolutely.
So we have to store it somewhere.
Mhm.
And I think that's, for me, is to create a space, one, for equipment storage, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't like the fact of the rifle being in the car, because it's not, if my SR is running to his car to get, in the worst case scenario,
Mhm.
something's really wrong. Now, if it's in the building and accessible, that's a little different. So I think we also need to figure out a space for you guys to have as a workspace that's
Absolutely.
secure as
Yeah,
well. I think that is necessary, because neither one of them, I mean, you both sit in the hallway that's,
Yeah.
which we want to be visible. I don't want the opposite to happen. I don't want you hiding in an office, but we're going to have to create a space where you have storage, and place to do your paperwork too.
I
Absolutely.
wouldn't care if we just had with me personally, I wouldn't care if we just had a file cabinet and a locker in the boiler room at the high school or something like that. You know, at least it's secure, it's out of sight, and, you don't have to worry about it.
We need something accessible just for you two, though. Really, that no one else can get to. I mean, it's going to be confidential, where it's yours, and whatever you put in there is yours, and there's no chance of anybody, fumbling into any of it.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, an office, some form of an office to do your paperwork, a desk, there's going to be, some things that you got to keep track of, and standing in the hallway or even in a vehicle is not fair. And I'm with Aaron about leaving the rifle in the vehicle. Like, it's just, I'm sure it's tough to break that glass, but
Thank Aaron too.
somebody can do it.
I want you to be able to throw that thing on and go. Like, I don't want you to be thinking about that thing out in your car. So we need to work on that. That was on my list of when we were talking about equipment. Like, we've got to fix that for you guys for sure. Okay, so I'll come back on that piece. But so we're good. The MOU signed. Officer Brooks is good. We'll get it stickered and plated. The city clerk just has to give me the title. I think they have everything they needed from us. So
Have they got the radio and everything out of it yet?
Yeah.
Everything's
Yep.
batteries in it now.
I got the radio, took a picture of the serial number, everything, got a hold of Bruce Dunn with Delaware County. He was able to just log on to his computer, get everything switched over. Clam talked to Bruce Dunn while Deuce was in the hospital, because he was in charge at that point, and approved it. And then he got a hold of Story from Eaton and got approval from him, so he made those arrangements on the radio aspect of it. So,
I did have a person approach me about the situation, and they were asking, with him being an Eaton police officer, if he's got a call for backup. Obviously, it's going to be Eric Peterson, but are we also going to be, asking the Selma Police Department to come and Delaware County?
Whoever
Just
close
quickest?
by, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's, like I said, I
Hopefully that doesn't happen. But
no, if I call, he's getting nothing several times, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing like that at all. Just like if any of these guys need help, and I'm right here at school, I'm not gonna leave them hanging either.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's,
okay.
with him, he's already got the academy training, so he has the arrest powers here.
right.
Don't think that just because he's on Eaton, that he doesn't have arrest powers in Selma. He does.
Say what?
Yeah. I just had a person ask me, like, if it involves more than one officer, what would we do?
call him Selma or
County.
Delaware County?
Yeah.
Rodney's always around here,
Right,
so.
okay.
Okay. E, approve supplemental payment contract for corporation speech language pathologist.
So we can probably put a
Do
few
these
of these
together?
together.
Yeah, can you do that? They
Yeah.
put minutes a lot easier.
Yeah.
Than having to go to each.
Okay,
Just
okay.
keep
F,
going.
approve supplemental payment contract for the corporation school guidance counselor. G, approve the resolution to amend employee contracts regarding HSA contributions. You want me to keep going?
It's up to you guys.
I think unless we need to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're,
Anybody has a question or comment, just go ahead and yell that. Approve the resolution moving our credit card services to the IASBO credit card. I, approve memorandum of understanding for mental health services with Bowen Health. J, approved memorandum of understanding for routine hearing screenings with Ball State University. K, approve the 2025-2026 breakfast and lunch prices. L, approve the 2025-2026 food service bid recommendations from NIESC. M, approve the 2025-2026 certified staff faculty handbook. M, it's his word. He made it up. I practiced saying it too, and I did it.
That's your pronunciation. Got some accent.
Yeah. And approve the 2025-2026 non-certified staffalty handbook.
It's an Aaron Black makeup word.
Uses it in Scrabble.
So we would need
You want E3?
a motion from 9E through 9A.
And
Motion approved.
Okay. Motion by Shane, second by Kara. And we've discussed it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. 10, review of reports. A is our enrollment report.
Pretty quiet this summer.
Yeah.
I will tell you,
Yeah.
our transfer requests are pretty high.
Good.
which is
Really?
Getting them.
Mhm.
That's good.
You never know what's going out, but I know transfer requests coming in are,
What's up?
Yeah.
Is there any reason for that? Do you attribute it to
I have
anything?
no idea. They're from all over the place, like
Okay.
all surrounding schools. It's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when do we usually receive? How do you find out who's leaving?
we'll know not till school starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's not true. We'll start getting requests for transferring documentation, but
Oh, okay.
as far as I know, that's not been real heavy, so.
Mhm.
Okay. 10B, ECA financial reports.
Nothing new there, pretty quiet.
is that what Amy gave you? Was that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
11, corporation comments, corporation staff comments. Huh? B, superintendent comments.
Just, by the time we come back together, we start school, August 6th.
Yes, yes.
We do have a back to school bash that we're planning on July 30th, 29th. Is that all right?
Plus 31st.
You're right. I don't know. But Thursday night, the 31st. Yes.
Wait,
Yes. So it is the 31st. But we've got a live band coming, John Easter's band, all kind of vendors, food trucks.
Really?
Yeah, just a
Oh,
big,
that'd be fun.
big celebration of coming back to school. We're
That's
pumping
cool.
it up.
Oh,
Good idea.
okay, okay. This is when?
July 31st.
31st, July 31st.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. And do you know when's the welcome back the teachers thing? Breakfast we
Yep,
have.
August 4th. Monday,
It's
August
August
4th.
4th. Okay.
8 o'clock. Yes.
Monday, August 4th.
We generally attend that. The board members usually attend that. So.
That's my first experience here. It's already been.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Believe it or not.
I think I know
I
that.
feel totally different today than I did this time last year.
Good, that's good.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay, is that it for you?
That's it.
Board comments?
I'm good.
Just thanks for putting together those guys coming in, giving us all that information.
Sure.
Feel
Yeah.
over-informed today, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah, they did a really good job, so really appreciate that.
it's a very good presentation. I have no comments. Too many mistakes on my.
Here.
They're documented too.
Thank you.
Forever.
I thought that was going through editing.
Please, please, please.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion, second, all in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 7:58.
I got